Now that we've prepared the sales budget, we are going to determine the expected cash collections for Royal Company. So we first have to look at some assumptions. So the first assumption is that we're assuming that all sales are on account. And Royal's collection pattern is that 70% of their sales on account are collected in the month of sale, and then 30% collected in the month following sale. Okay? And then they say in April, the March 31st, so the end of the prior month before April, the March 31st accounts receivable balance of $30,000 will be collected in full in April. So we want to figure out for each of these months, how much cash are we expected to collect and how much cash are we expected to collect then for the entire quarter. So I pulled the sales budget from here and copied it on over here because we're going to need it. So in April, first of all, they told us we're going to end up collecting the $30,000 accounts receivable balance from end of last month in April. So we can go ahead and put $30,000 there in April to show that that's the expected cash to collect in April from last month's ending receivable balance. All right, so now how much of April sales do we estimate we will collect in April? Well, they say that 70% of the sales made in a given month are collected in that same month. So what's the budgeted sales for April? Well, we know it's $200,000. So based on their collection pattern, we estimate that 70% of that $200,000 will be collected in April. So to find out how much of April sales will be collected in April, we're simply going to take 70% times this $200,000 here. That gives us $140,000 that we anticipate we will collect in April from April's sales. So the total cash collections we anticipate for April is $170,000. Now, if 70% of April's sales are expected to be collected in April, remember 30% of that is expected to be collected in that following month. So 30% of that $200,000 we estimate we will collect in May. So we will take 30% times that $200,000 budgeted sales from April. So we estimate that of the $200,000 of April sales, $60,000 of it will be collected in May. So by the time we hit the end of May, all of April's credit sales are estimated to be collected. Now, how much of May's sales do we estimate we will collect in May? Well, remember, 70% of sales of credit sales are usually collected in the month of sale. So how much how much is the budgeted sales for May? Well, it's $500,000. So we estimate that 70% of that $500 of sales will be collected in May. So we're going to take 70% times the budgeted sales for May to see that we anticipate or we estimate that $350,000 of the $500,000 budgeted sales for May will be collected in May. The remainder we estimate will be collected in June. So the month following May is June. So we estimate that 30% now of that $500,000 will be collected in June of May sales. We're still in that same row there. So we're going to take 30% now times that $500,000 to see that, okay, 150 of the 500 we estimate we will collect in June, the 1 month following May. Now, how about June's sales? How much of June's sales do we anticipate we will collect in June? Well, remember, 70% of credit sales are usually collected in the month of sale. So here we're going to take 70% times the $300,000 budgeted sales for June to estimate that we will collect $210,000 of June's credit sales in June. So by the time we hit the end of the quarter, all of April's credit sales would have been collected, all of May's credit sales would have been collected, and 70% of June's sales would have been collected. That leaves us with still 30% of June's sales not collected. It would be estimated to be collected in July, that remaining 30%. So the ending accounts receivable balance at the end of the quarter would be 30% of June's sales, which is $90,000 here. Okay, because remember, when we end the quarter, we end June, and 30% of June's sales wouldn't have been collected yet, or that's the estimate, which would be left over in accounts receivable. So for the quarter, we estimate that we will collect about $940,000 in cash from customers related to partially sales or the accounts receivable balance from March, and then April, May, and June sales. So that's how much cash we estimate we will collect from customers. So the most important thing here is to make sure you're going slow, taking it step by step to separate out the percent collections from one another, because it can be very easy to mess up some of these numbers, but it's best if you use a table like this and just go slowly.